James, I want to ask you about Peter Dutton. I've been very impressed since Christmas. He's come out swinging on the question of the voice. He was here on Sky earlier this morning. I am hoping that the coalitions, the Liberals are going to join the Nationals and say, no, we oppose the voice. It looks that that's the direction Peter Dutton appears to be going, James.
Well, that does appear to be the direction he's going into, but right now I think he's playing a very smart political game, because I think what Anthony Albanese was hoping was for him to come out and simply say no, and he could, fight on his home turf. Albanese could fight on his home turf, which is, if you don't do this, you have bad manners, you're a bigot, you're racist. It's the vibe. And, we're going to talk about this, because this ties in also to the Alice Springs thing, and we're going to talk about Jacinda Ardern in a moment. But what I think is happening here is that Anthony Albanese is falling victim to the same trap that Jacinda Ardern did, which is that if you seem like you're emoting and you are, doing performative kindness, which is really, quite a totalitarian sort of thing when you start to think about it and break it down, then you're going to get over the line. But of course, we saw in New Zealand that all of the things and performance indicators that she was supposed to do.
Well, she won one election.
She won one election, but we hang on. I don't want to jump in, but
no, hang on. Let's go to Rita.
Yep.
This whole question of the voice and Dutton's response to it, Albanese, James is correct that Albanese is kind of relying on the vibe. Let's get the touchy-feely mob over the line. Brilliant interview by Ben Fordham on Radio TGB the other morning, where he completely skewered Anthony Albanese. If Albanese is the chief salesperson for this voice, he's incapable of selling it because he doesn't even understand it himself. Worse than that, he's so disrespectful to the Australian people that he didn't even bother to check out the legality of his own comments. Listen, and then his own team tried to doctor the transcript that showed how neglectful Albanese was. This is a disgrace. Listen to how brilliantly Ben Fordham played this the other day. Have a listen.
The Attorney General is the Attorney General. The Solicitor General is the person, which you are confusing, is the person who gives legal advice to the government. The Attorney General is a political officer who's the first law officer of the land.
So you got legal advice from the Solicitor General?
No.
Now, putting to one side the fact that the PM doesn't think the Attorney General gives advice on legal matters, there's another problem. Someone in the PM's office has tampered with the truth by erasing an important fact that was unearthed yesterday. And it's this bit. So you got legal advice from the Solicitor General?
No.
No? Well, that no has been deleted from the official transcript of the interview released by the Prime Minister's office.
What a disgrace. Not only did Albanese and his government not get the correct legal advice, which people like Janet Albrechtsen, Ian Callanan and many, many other respected journalists and legal minds have said that this thing is fraught with perils. They were too lazy, too arrogant, too pathetic, too drunk on their own virtue signalling to not actually get legal advice about something that goes to the heart of our Constitution and affects all our lives going forward. Rita, the laziness of the Albanese government, and well done on Ben Fordham for picking it up. And then they turn around and delete the transcript showing how lazy and ignorant Albanese is. Unbelievable, Rita.
It is, but it's also not surprising because they are appealing to emotional arguments. They're not going out there and prosecuting the case that this is going to make the country run better, that this is going to improve the Constitution. This is about emotive arguments, that if you don't do this, you're on the wrong side of history. If you don't do this, then you're not respectful of the Indigenous community. It is absurd, but he's not going to be their main salesperson. You're going to see in the coming months corporations, celebrities, sporting bodies, they are going to put such an almighty effort into painting this as progress, even though this is not progress. This is race-based politics being enshrined into the Constitution. This is going backwards. It is going to do enormous damage to our country, but the way it's going to be sold, and unless Peter Dutton, I know you two have praised him today, unless he comes out and strongly opposes this, then it's going to pass. You cannot...
Hang on, sorry.
The moment the Liberals oppose it, it collapses in a house of cards.
But in the meantime, though, what Peter Dutton is doing is very wise because, he is giving people the cover to ask the questions.
details,
And as
exactly.
soon as
Good
people
point.
start asking the questions, the thing starts to fall apart. And this is the same thing that happened with the Republic, and this is the same thing that's happening here with this. Yes, you're absolutely correct, Rita. You're correct about the corporations. You're correct that there's a very cynical game that Albanese is playing, just like he played with Ben Fordham here on Rewriting This. He's given tax-free status to the Yes campaign. The No campaign doesn't get it. The No campaign is being nobbled by Facebook and people like that. But, you know, at the same time, we also see what's happening when we saw today that Madeleine King, the resources minister, this gives the game away, said to resources companies, hey, you know, it would be really, really good if you guys, came out and supported The Voice, which, of course, we can only suspect, you know, has a strong sort of sting in the tail, like, you know, lovely application for a new mine you've got there. Be a shame if something were to happen to it. Now, this shows just how much I think corporate Australia needs to wake up because, you know, corporate Australia got absolutely rolled on IR stuff. They got rolled on all these other things. They backed in Albanese, and if they back him in on The Voice, they're not going to get anything for it either.
Hang on, I just got to sorry, just quickly, I just got to rewind. You've completely baffled and confused me, James. If I'm hearing you right, you're suggesting that a large bureaucracy in charge of, for example, say, Indigenous affairs, that you could have a large bureaucracy staffed with people and that it could not be entirely above board? That's never happened before, has it?
Well,
sorry, I mean, ATSIC, that was as clean as a whistle, wasn't it?
Well, I'm just, you know, look, what I'm suggesting is, you know, and I hate to be cynical, but that, you know, that maybe that there could be these sort of transactional quid pro quos in politics. And gosh, I know that's a very cynical sort of thing. And I know that in a government that's all about
kindness. This is not the Australia. This is not the Australia that you know.
I think what we need is an ATSIC with no accountability. An ATSIC that can't be sacked because it's in the Constitution.
Right. Yes. Put it in the Constitution.
It's there forever.
Rita solved the problem.
You know what? We have so many advisory bodies already in this space. So this notion that Indigenous people don't have a voice, never mind the fact that we've got a number of 11, an overrepresentation compared to the population in the Australian Parliament. But there are advisory bodies. You can question how well they're doing and given the enormous investment in closing the gap and the lack of results there, you know, that's, I think, where there needs to be a little bit of scrutiny about how we are managing.
Absolutely. And also, more importantly, what would The Voice do differently?
Yeah.
What is The Voice's bureaucracy somehow different to all those hundreds of other bureaucracies got billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, billions, literally. What is it that The Voice is going to do differently? That's not exactly the same.
And Rowan, this is the logical heart of the flaw at the logical heart of the whole idea. If suddenly somehow we take one of these advisory bodies, we bolt it on to the Constitution, but then allegedly, according to Albanese, it will only be advisory and will have absolutely no justiciability in the High Court. It will have absolutely no authority. It will not be, you know, something that will be feared and respected, as some people have suggested. It will just simply be a talking shop where ideas from whence they might flow, that will solve all of the problems of Indigenous disadvantage. Come on.
You say that it's only advisory, but it was Albanese himself who said it would be a brave government that would ignore The Voice. Well, yes, Prime Minister springs to mind, you know, very brave, very courageous. So, oh, God, I better not do that then. So no government is going to oppose The Voice if it is enshrined in the Constitution.
OK, I'm going to disagree with James here. So let's start the first show of the year with a 5.
Let's do it.
Beauty.
Ding, ding.
Peter Dutton, I do not agree with you at all that he is managing this in a way that is, you know, building up a campaign that is a sound strategy. You look at the poll numbers, Albanese is flying. You look at some of the polling on this particular issue. The Liberals, from the moment this was announced on election night, they should have had a firm position based on principle. You don't need further detail to say a race-based referendum is not a good idea. You don't need further detail to say we do not want the democratic principle of one man, one vote undermined by a race-based process where only certain people based on their ethnicity can participate. You don't need further detail to have a principled position, and he hasn't, and I think that is going to be a problem. And I think a lot of people who are not particularly engaged in the political process have already made up their mind on this.
Well,
James.
okay, look, I will say to you, you are absolutely right that a race-based referendum is the last thing that this country needs, and Peter Dutton absolutely should, and I hope will come out and say that. Perhaps he'll come out and say something around Australia Day when we should really be talking about, what makes this country what it is. But, Rita, I want you to put yourself back in the shoes of the Liberals the day after Election Day, when they just had a thumping loss to Labour. All of the stories are about division within the Liberals. The Liberals are a spent force. Everything else, the party room is already all over the shop. Now, Peter Dutton comes in over the top. Imagine this. Just think about the politics here. He comes in over the top, says, we are, as a party room, united, going to say no going forward. Well, you know what? You're going to have a whole bunch of wets in that party room who are going to go out and they will make the entire media narrative about how the Liberals are divided over this. They'll be saying plenty of yes people within the Liberal camp. They'll go to crossbenches and things like that, and the narrative will be completely lost around what is a very good cause.
But it's been some 8 months now, so there's been plenty of time to manage that situation. There's 8 months now, and we've still got those 4 or 5 wets. It's always the same people. It's always the same people. The same small group of troublemakers.
Andrew Bragg, people like that.
We can name them all.
The bedwetters.
Who are still giving that sense that the party room is divided, that if he does state a firm position, that there's going to cause all sorts of angst within the party room. So that hasn't been handled. We're still sitting on the fence whilst the government has ran this strong campaign. You can say it's not sound, you can say it's all style, no substance, sure, but it's being effective. And then you're going to have
How can you say, what evidence do you have? What evidence do you have that it's effective?
We've had the debate. Good debate.
Okay,
both of you did really well. I think Rita's 100% correct. I think James is 100% correct. I'm, of course, 110% correct in saying that. Historically, Rita is absolutely right. I think, I'm sensing that Dutton is moving towards taking the Liberals to a no position, and in doing so, he's doing James's political strategy, which strikes me as an intelligent one to go with.